Jack Welch once said, "Control your destiny, or someone else will." Welcome to McBain Moments. Before we get started, as always, if you're new to the channel, welcome to the Manor. Make sure you take a moment and subscribe down below. We're on the road to 13 million subscribers, one subscription at a time, so make sure you subscribe. Control your own destiny, or someone else will. If you don't take your life by the reins, you're going to end up tap dancing to someone else's tune. That's just the way it is. Because you can't survive without having some sort of an occupation. You can't survive without having some means with which to provide yourself and or your family with what they need in order to live. That's food, that's shelter. You can't survive without it. Or technically you can, but it's a pretty horrible existence. So you really have to take life by the horns. You have to take it by the reins and say, I am going to take responsibility for making sure that my life is the best that it can possibly be. And then you have to put the effort forth in order to incrementally make that success become a reality. And what's successful for you isn't necessarily what's successful for the person even across the hall from you in your apartment building, or even across the hall in your home. A brother or a sister or a spouse. Success for you may be a totally different outlook than what it is for them. Because individually, there's individual success and then there's group success. And from an individual standpoint, you are successful when you are at the point that you are conducting yourself in a way that is meaningful to yourself and to those around you. And by doing so, you receive the benefits of having done so. And you're able to do things like have a home and put food on the table and keep warm in the winter if you live in the cold climates, or keep cool during the summer if you live in a hotter climate, or both if you live in a really whacked out climate like I do. So, and I say it that way because we have really hot, humid summers and really cold, frigid winters. So how do you go about that? Well, you have to figure out what it is that will make your life worthwhile to you. We're not just talking coasting through on a day-to-day basis where there's nothing coming forward and you're just making that paycheck. And for some people, that's what they want to do, and for them, that's a meaningful life because they raise their kids and they grind away at it. And you're going to grind. Everyone's going to have to grind away at some point in their lives, and for a lot of people, it's going to be the majority of your lives, and there's nothing wrong with that. But let's take the farmer, for example. A farmer is successful to them when they produce a great crop. That's meaningful because they're producing food for their own family and for other families in their community, or for the larger farms for their nation or state. And so they lead a grindy life, but it's an extremely meaningful life because they build their family, they build their farm, they make sure that the crops are all good, they're growing food so that other people can also live. And so just because it's a humble life doesn't mean it's not meaningful, because it's hard to get more humble than a farmer. You know, they work ridiculous hours every single week. One lousy storm can destroy everything. And they just plug away at it year after year. And we really don't appreciate just how much meaning there is to that type of work. But on the same token, that may not be what's right for you. You know, not everyone can be a farmer. Well, I guess technically everyone could be a farmer, but it doesn't mean you're going to be an effective farmer. And so maybe what's meaningful to you is becoming a counselor, and you help people to work through and process the traumas that they have experienced throughout their lives. And in doing so, you make their lives less horrible. And that is a meaningful existence. Or perhaps you work for a grocery store and you help people to gather the things they need in order to live and find the things that they need in order for their day-to-day life to be a little bit better. Perhaps you help them find the right cut of meat so that their meal is better than it could have been because they chose the wrong one. And if to you that's meaningful, grocery is one of the oldest professions out there. It's right up there because when farmers would gather their crops and they'd bring it to market, a grocer would be responsible for organizing the the stalls, and then eventually it became where the farmers sold to the grocers, and then the grocers sold the food. So it's an incredibly old profession, hundreds of years. Not necessarily. No, I can't say hundreds. It's over 100. It's over 100 years old, but it's still a meaningful profession, because without the grocers, the food wouldn't get to the cities. Not anymore. Not for a long time. So even in something as that's basic retail, you don't find more basic retail than grocery. That's your convenience store. That's your grocery store. That's just the means of getting food to the table. So just because it doesn't do something great doesn't make it meaningful, but it has to be meaningful to you. It has to be meaningful to you. So if it doesn't have meaning for you, it's not going to be fulfilling. So I would challenge you to reflect upon what you value. What do you value? And then out of that set of values, what can you be doing to make it so that you feel fulfilled in those values? What can you do to bring meaning to those values? And what can you be doing to make those to bring those values forward? And from as far as I can tell, that is the best way to lead a meaningful life. And I don't have this down. This is a working theory I've got. We're working on this. This is a work in process. I'm figuring this out. And I don't think that I'm any more further along in that process than the majority of the population. But at the same time, if you take the time and actually think about it, like actually drill down and try to eliminate as many distractions as possible, which is extremely difficult for a lot of people, including myself, and actually think, you might figure out what has meaning to you, and then you can work toward it. Good luck. This has been a McBain moment.